Dr. Chambers, who also led the subcommittee that I created.
Dr. Edwin Chambers.
Dr. Chambers was my deputy at the Ministry of Education. A great diplomat, great foreign service personality. And he helped us create the GET Fund. And so we created a GET Fund, and GET Fund, in my estimation, has contributed billions of dollars to this country's education system over the last 20-something years. But unfortunately, under this regime, it has been, securitized and taken to mortgage for some Chinese loan, as I understand it. So part of Ghana's indebtedness and the crisis you're facing, in different ways, pledged, securitized here and there to do different things. This is VAT. You may also be aware that I had the privilege of reintroducing value-added tax into the Ghanaian economy in 1998, after an attempt had been made first by Rawlings' government with Kwesi Botchwey as the finance minister to launch VAT in 1995. But our current president, Honorable Excellency Mr. Akufo Addo, had organized demonstrations all over the country, Kumi Preko, Sieme Preko, Wieme Preko, against the value-added tax. So Rawlings had to suspend it. And when I became minister in 1997, he said, look, Chief, I know you're going to have many things to do, but what is really on my mind, Chief, is that VAT that we wanted to introduce, and the demonstrations didn't make it possible. You got to introduce it. So focus your time on making sure VAT comes back. So I spent 18 months in public education programs based on my experiences.
So VAT actually was not introduced by Professor Mills?
Not at all, no. It was introduced while President Mills was the vice president.
But it was your idea?
Rawlings, no, not my idea at all. Rawlings was the president. But he had the idea, or the government of the time in 1995 had the idea, Kwesi Botchwey and others, to introduce VAT. But they couldn't introduce it because of the demonstrations. So VAT was suspended. And when I became minister in 1997, President Rawlings said, look, this VAT was being handled by the Ministry of Finance. But President Rawlings has determined that it was inadequate public education. That is why the VAT had to be suspended. So I'm now Minister for Communication, and I'm supposed to be an expert in communication. Convince Ghanaians and tell them why VAT is good. And that's what we did in 18 months. It can't take 3 months, 2 months, 5 months to convince Ghanaians about things like that. When I see current ministers saying they're going to introduce a Japan this, they will try to do this in 2-3 months, and debt forgiveness. I just watch them because the amount of public education or education in general, especially persuasive education, you might as well look at the classroom situation. How many years it takes you to understand a subject? Teacher or every day for 7-8 years, 10 years, and subject, whether it's chemistry, biology, or whatever it is. So depending on the subject, people need a certain amount of education. This is Ghana, yako, a musum or a debt, a bankruptcy. Well, that's where we are. How to communicate that subject of Ghana being a bankrupt country, so that say she a free baby or Ghana or a cow bear $20,000 to $25,000 cedis at birth, and that child will carry that debt on his neck, around her neck for at least 20 years if Ghana were to even get the proper debt arrangements. And see, how do you communicate that? So a free baby becomes aware of his obligation to work hard and help us pay the debt, and all Ghanaians also have to be educated in a certain way, to also be debt conscious. You don't carry more debt, you don't create more debt in your own family, because eventually it becomes a debt for the nation. You don't create more debt as a company, as a church, all the various institutions that are debt creators must be aware of their responsibility so that we jointly help to pay the national debt. But this is where the government doesn't understand that you can't do that by only dealing with a certain party in power or dealing with MPs in parliament. It is a national program, and you have to get the people along with you if you want them to go along. That's what we did in a VAT, and people said, "Oh yeah, VAT it sounds good. Let's try it." In fact, people were, filing and charging to be VAT-registered businesses because we showed them and proved to them the benefits of being a VAT-registered business. Among other things, the government will give you free credit, for between 30 to 60 days, because you don't need to pay your VAT, if you're a VAT registered business, for 45 days after you've collected it. So it is like government giving you a free line of credit for all the money that you've collected as a VAT registered business. So a business must say, wow, so I can collect money and I would have to pay it to the government for 30, 40 days. Oh, then that's good because it's free money. But you still have to pay it. But you have control of that money for 30, 40 days. These are little nuances in the law that some people didn't understand. But if you give a communication professional, he will break it down and interpret it so that people can understand why it is in their own interest. Because it's when people understand what is in their own interest, that's why they behave a certain way. When they don't think something is in their own interest, they don't behave in that way.